We're all acting our lives.
There's a difference between that and life is acting out our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that little
difference.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you mean, but I'm just using language to when you know that it's life doing its thing in the form of me saying this right now, or you saying that, you know. I think that's the step. It's like, oh, life is playing in the form of me. And I think I think that can only happen when you're not so identified with it.
Exactly.
And then the disidentifying is the difference, because it's, instead of thinking I'm doing this, you're actually kind of getting out of the way and saying life is doing this. But then you also have to say, well, in your party, life was doing kind of tension. You know, is there a way of having that party without the one who brought the tension in? And that's what we're talking about here, really, isn't it? So yes, you can still say it's life happening. That tension is life happening in the form of your personality, in a way. It's all life happening, but there's different forms of it, and there is a form of it, let's say, that's more, I think you can say this much, that's more free. You know, life can be terribly stressful, or you know, and then the question is, well, where does the stress come in? Why? How? Obviously, that's what we talk about here. And in seeing through those patterns, then you can be more released into a more original relationship to life, where it's the same life, but it appears in a very different form. The stress can be leached out of it. Sometimes, not always, maybe. It can still arise, stress can still arise, but as a chronic, ongoing format of living, it you know, you may find that it doesn't have to be like that. And that's because that format is like the format of personality. It's the way it's, and that comes from the wound. And it's a stress response that got stuck, really, and then created this thing. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you can always say, well, it's all life doing its thing. So you can say, well, why are we even talking about this? Why just, you know, we often come back to this, we just accepted all the good and the bad. And you can do that, and that would be life doing its thing. But you're all drawn to look deeper than that, to realizing that, well, life can do its thing in a different way, but that is without a certain element of identification and stress and all of that. And again, I have to qualify that there can still be stress. Stress can still come into a life, but we're talking about a kind of chronic stress through the energetic source of the wound, really. You know, the opposite of this is like shit happens, you have the wound, and that's your life. You're defined by it for your whole life. That's your karma. That's what you live. Get on with it. Some people think that, but if you've experienced openings, you know that's not the only life that this being could live. So that's the quest, to find out what's blocking it, what is between me and that. I think on a bottom level, it's unresolved energy. It's unresolved, maybe energy is the wrong word, and something unresolved. And it's like a kink has been put in the energy force, and it's not been resolved. It's not been, it's like a, you know, if you have a hose and there's a kink in it and the water doesn't flow well, and that kink is still there and it's still affecting the, and this is working out all right, this image. It's affecting the flow, right? Because the kink is still there. So for the hose to be fully working and functional, the kink has to be kind of just, straightened out, pulled out, allowed to flow again. But yeah, I mean, that's a kind of, maybe sounds a bit facile, but basically some things happen that's not been resolved, not been healed. To heal it is no small thing, because to heal it means to travel deep into it. And, who wants to do that? Only people who have the yearning. If you don't have the yearning, there's no chance in hell of going into it, because you're programmed and you're built around avoiding it. So it's this weird quirk that you have to like go in the direction of the pain, because there's something in it that's greater than the pain.